Welcome everyone. Thank you for taking your time out on a Monday evening and joining us. We are doing something very interesting and exciting today, and I think we've come together at a very opportune time, literally at the tails of the CBSE Class 12 results. For some of you, this might have been maybe a harrowing day or a stressful day. Either way, your emotions may be going up and down. And I think it's the right time to do something like this. What we hope to do today is to not only help you de-stress, but to also manage these pressure points in the future, not only during the pandemic, but in your future as well. So just quickly, I will talk to you about also the flow today. We have a very great panel with us. I'll do a couple of introductions. Our three speakers will sort of present, and then we'll leave the second half of the webinar for your questions. So please, there's a Q&A section. There's also a chat section, but I encourage you to use the Q&A section to feel like freely ask your questions. I'm sure our speakers will be very happy to answer them at the end of their session. Just coming back, I'm going to take a quick step back and just let you know how Maple Assist got involved in this. We actually provide support to students, mostly those who are looking to study abroad. And we've been doing this for the past 2 years through our arrival services, our apps. But of course, once the pandemic hit, I think we also realized that we need to change the way we sort of provide support to students. And this is not just students looking to study abroad, it's students who are just, those just studying right now in colleges, in high schools, thinking of studying, doing their undergraduate and masters in India, abroad. So the idea is to sort of reach out to all of you and, to look after your emotional and mental needs, not just your education needs. So overall well-being is what is our goal today. And so our speakers today, I'll just do a quick round before we actually do a proper introduction. So I'm no expert, but you have a great panel of experts here today. There's Divya Verma is here, who's a career counselor at the Scindia School. We have Vardhini and Kirtana as well, who are both sports and performance psychologists. And all three are here to give you some very good guidance during these very trying and uncertain times. So I'm going to start with Divya. And again, just to introduce her to you, she's a career counselor at the Scindia School, where she's been working actually for the past 5 years. Before that, she was a training and placement officer at the Shri Ram Group of Colleges. So thank you, Divya, for doing this, and welcome again. And I think your experience and the years that you've actually worked with young adults means that you're actually the right person to give us some sort of background and context to the situation at hand. So let's begin by asking you if you could just give us some insight into the situation from the perspective of a high school student, for instance.
Thank you very much. First of all, good evening to everyone, to all the panelists and all the participants. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. And I think let's look at the situation quite positively. I think this pandemic has brought all of us together, and we are together talking and discussing things and things which are important to all of us. So, let me begin with what you asked me, like what is the perspective of a student in this situation. What I have observed and what I have been observing for the last couple of months, of course, it's a stressful time, and but I would like to look at things from a very positive perspective. There are a set of students who are looking at this scenario, wherein, of course, they're anxious. And as you said now today, that CBSE result has come out, and there was a lot of confusion how the results are going to be prepared and etc. So there is a set of students who are looking at this whole scenario from a very stressful point of view. They're anxious. They're trying to talk to us, connect with us. There is quite a bit of uncertainty. But the other perspective is there are a set of students who are looking at this situation from a very, very positive perspective. They are looking at it as a time wherein they can learn more. They are looking at the opportunities that have come their way, because as I said, that this has brought us together. We are together talking to each other, discussing things which are important to us, what needs to be done, what is next, how to prepare for this situation, and how is it going to unfold. So and then of course there are students who are looking at it as a long vacation for them.
Yeah.
So so I would like to convey to all the students that it is entirely up to us how we look at the situation, and I am very happy to share that there's a very bigger lot who are engaging themselves into very interesting activities. It can be an online course, it can be any activity at home. I belong to a boys' boarding school. They're working on their physical fitness. Some are doing a programming online course. Some are into volunteering service also.
Right.
And of course, as I said, there is a level of anxiety also, but that is the best way to, I think, approach this situation.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Divya. So that's obviously the positive outlook is what we are sort of hoping to sort of inculcate for students as well. Can you tell us a little more about what schools and boarding schools are actually, how they are sort of coping with the pandemic? And I'm sure like even boarding schools, you have two kinds, right? You have your residential and the day boarders. So how are they trying to tackle the situation for both kinds?
For schools also, this situation was something which they weren't prepared to deal. Nobody thought of in March that the students are not going to physically join the school, and this semester, this session, we are going to start online. And I think, I'm sure all the other students, they must have already started with their classes, because I believe most schools in our country are now, they're having their online classes. The new session has started.
Right.
But I see a very, new developments in terms of pedagogy. Teachers have really in the process of unlearning things and relearning things. So they are trying to rediscover themselves.
Right.
There are glitches in terms of there might be technical problems, the internet might not be so good, there might be difficulties, there someone might not be very tech savvy. But I think our teachers are really doing a wonderful job in terms of adapting to the change, and this has always been the key word, adapting.
Right.
And I think online learning or learning through technology has always been there, and it was going to be there. It's just that this pandemic has brought more closer to us. It's important to learning. So if I can give example, there are a number of schools who are giving small projects to the students rather than only teaching textbooks and making PPTs. It has made students more involved. And I would suggest it to all the students to try and figure out how can they make their learning more interactive, and wherein they are doing more things, wherein they're thinking, producing something, analyzing something. And for boarding schools, yes, we are in the habit of having students with us 24/7. So yes, we are missing them badly. We're trying to rediscover ourselves, and in terms of how we are going to cope up from the health perspective, I think one advantage boarding school has it that they have very minimal interaction with the outside world. So we are able to perhaps face this pandemic in a much better way when it physically opens. Yeah.
Right. No, and I think you're right. I mean, this is of course equally challenging for different sorts of institutions and teachers and professors, and to suddenly switch to this mode of teaching, and it's I guess we all have to sort of and adapt. I think that's what you said, and that's the right word completely, because we all are having to adapt to the ways in which we do very routine things like even our work and how we live our lives. So that's a great message. And finally, so now, the connections are, of course, way becoming more and more important, while we are social distancing. So how important has the one-to-one connect become nowadays?
I think one-to-one connect has always been important, and it is going to be rather more important in the days to come. We all are at our own homes, or everybody's working from home, and even if some people have joined offices, the strength is quite less. But I think it is imperative need of a human being to connect with fellow people.
Yeah.
Maybe a teacher to student, or connect with friends and family members who are living far off. So this one-to-one connect is very important, and all the schools and all the students should keep in mind that they should connect with their friends either through technology or calling them, because living in isolation, not connecting with our peers, it really the problem of anxiety and feeling left out and all these problems, they spike if you are not connected with people. Even the education per se, it becomes quite difficult if the connect is broken. And I think my fellow panelists would be able, they're the best people to emphasize the fact that how badly it affects human psychology if we are not able to share our emotions and feel that we are together into this.
Right.
So I think one-to-one connect has always been important, and it affects humans psychologically, emotionally, and in every way. So yes, we are calling our students, we're trying to have these kind of Zoom meetings. And my message to all the students and all the parents is that they should be in touch with all the peer level, even with universities and with their, even if it is required, they should be in touch with psychologists if somebody is feeling any kind of a problem.
Yeah, wonderful advice, Divya, and this is like really great insight. We do have lots more questions, and I think we already have some coming up from our attendees as well, but we will come back to you on those. So now let me quickly also introduce our two very remarkable young women. We have Vardhini here, who's a sports and performance psychologist, and she's also the founder of a performance psychology setup called Mind First Performance Psychology Consulting. Vardhini has been working with a lot of players in India. She was also the psychologist of the Indian rowing team for the 2018 Asian Games, which is amazing. She also works with corporate employees as well as students to develop coping strategies. She's also a full-time mom of an infant. She enjoys her runs and yoga and likes to call herself a cricket addict. So Vardhini, welcome. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much, Anam.
And we also have with us Keerthana, who is also a sports psychologist. She's a founder of Think, Train, Perform. Interestingly, she's also an author of a book she wrote about 3 years ago. She's a blogger and motivational speaker. Keerthana is currently working as a human resource consultant for an organization where she takes care of performance management and employee training and engagement. So thank you, Keerthana, also for being here. Of course, from whatever I've said, it's just goes all the more to say that I think you'll be giving some great insight to us. I know you guys have a presentation also, something very interactive and fun. So looking forward to that, and I leave the stage to you guys now.
Thank you, Anam. Thanks, Anam. So I'm just going to start sharing the presentation before we begin. All right, welcome everyone, students, parents, and Keerthana and I are just going to shuttle in between both of us as we go through this presentation, because we just want to keep it a little, maybe if you put it in simple words, we want to keep it a little informal and simple, because given the situation, I think we don't want to complicate things at all, but we just want you to understand that this is the new normal, like, you know, what we are dealing with right now. We can't wait for things to go back to how they were, say, probably pre-March, and then, you know, take action on our careers and so on. So this is definitely the new normal, and accepting this current situation, as rightly put by our Divya ma'am, that, you know, this is, you know, you need to accept this current situation the way it is and then move on. So as psychologists, I guess both of us are going to help you through this and help you understand to be much more self-aware in this current situation, and how can you develop a resilient mind, which is what is the way ahead. Because accepting the new normal and then standing for your own, say, careers or your own self is how we are going to deal with this situation. I'm going to pass it to Kirtana so that we can, you know, as I said, we'll just keep it informal, like a conversation, and then we'll take your questions at the end of the presentation. Kirtana?
Yeah, so as Vardhani rightly put, right, so the thing is, we can't expect ourselves to get back on track. There's no back on track. It's going to be a new track altogether. I don't know how many of y'all are Michelle Obama's fans, but as she rightly puts it, right, in her one of her documentaries, where she said there's no getting back to pre-presidential life. It's only after. It's going to be a new life completely. So that's how even COVID-19 situation is for everyone. Right, from businesses to students to all of us, you know, it's a new normal. So we all got to accept that it's a new track altogether. So
Correct.
yes, yeah.
All right. So just to, like, you know, go and see your situation as students, I guess, you know, everyone would have that question, be it your family members, friends, peers, or even yourself, and, you know, you always think, what was the future plan, or, like, you know, as I guess every interviewer puts it, you know, how do you see yourself 2 years down the line? But then now it's like, okay, you know, it's like how this meme is saying that, you know, you get some inner panic attack when you say that, okay, you know, what's your plan right now? And this current situation is actually frustrating because you cannot actually plan, like, you know, to the T, as they say. Like, because earlier when, you know, say you're planning to go abroad, or like post 12th, what you want to do, you know concretely, you have a plan laid down the next 6 months, how things are going to be and stuff. But right now, because of the situation, you cannot plan in the future. So I guess that's how, you know, that's how the situation has brought everyone to like a grinding halt. But as we said in the first slide, we need to move on. So, you know, how and where you need to start is mentally. First is your mindset needs to move on. Once the mindset, you know, gets going, then your action plan begins. So hence, even if someone asks you what's your future plan, you firstly need to, you just remind yourself that, you know, mentally I need to set certain targets, but maybe not like how I had said, say, before March, or when, you know, when I plan to you know, take this next academic year in some way, or say if you're graduating right now, you knew that you need to you know, probably put an internship opportunity somewhere. You knew those things, but right now, given the situation, things may not respond in that way. So hence you need to plan certain things mentally first and then move ahead. So we are going to have the whole presentation around this. And if Kirtana could add something more to this. Yeah.
Yeah, so like Vardhani said, you know, it's very important for us to plan. But for us to plan, we first need to understand what's really going on in our mind, right? So we just have a goal for you right now that is going to make us also understand, make you also understand what's really stressing you out. What are those key factors? We really need to get into those details, right? So once we know what it is, it's very easy for us to get through it. It's about that awareness. So now we just have a goal for you, which is going to help you understand that. I think Anam is just getting the goal.
Yeah, I
We
think
have about 30. Yeah.
we already had a few people who had answered it, but I'm just relaunching it
Right.
so that more people can sort of participate.
Yes. thing is, what are the factors that are stressing you out as students? So is it not being able to complete or take up the program in person? Is it the validity of the online course that you're fearing? Are you fearing losing out a year? Is it some kind of parental pressure or expectation that's stressing you out? Is it fear of future unemployment that you're fearing, peer pressure, or you feel you don't have any stress at all? You can put that across. And if there are other factors which are not here, you can click on that as well. Either of this.
All right, I think we have quite a few people who voted. Let us end the poll, and I'm sharing the results.
Right.
Here you go.
Okay, interesting. So we have most of them, 33% fearing losing out on a year, right? And about 23% fearing not being able to take up the program in person.
Wow.
About 16% fear of future unemployment. And then there are other factors as well. Maybe a few, maybe 5% in terms of validity of course and parental pressure, and about 7% no stress, which is good.
Yeah. Would
Yes.
I think 6 people also mentioned other factors, so we would also like to know what are those other factors. You could just put it in the chat box so that we could take it up sometime, because I guess but then I guess what Kirtana mentioned, like this is the thing, like there will be different things that are going on in our head, and I guess it's very important to understand, like as the poll is saying, it's fear of losing out on the year. Definitely, I guess it's one of the most scariest prospects what any student could go through. But like we said, that it is something unexpected and you're not expecting this, so it's definitely going to jolt your mind that okay, this is not going to happen. And it's very important to again accept the situation. So that's the point number one, what I guess I would put forward. Kirtana?
Yeah, and I think going over to the next slide, we would be talking about why exactly you have. I think yeah, it's. I think the whole thing of media telling us a lot about what's going on. There's excessive awareness on these kind of things, which is is this going to disrupt? Whether it's your thoughts of fear or not, I think there's a lot coming from media and social media as well. So I think that also contributes to your fear of unemployment, B, losing out a year, and the kind of competition that's come through. I'm sure I can understand why you have that fear, right?
Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, I just to add to what Kirtana said, it's just like, added pressure existing, because you already have that fear of, what's going to happen as the poll mentions, unemployment or losing out on this academic year, or, how valid the courses would be and so on. On top of that, you have media pouring in all these headlines. And then, that is like an added pressure, which kind of exists in our head. So basically, we are trying to make you aware what's creating this kind of a pressure. Okay, it's not just the situation, but these what we call as stimuluses in the environment, which will make you feel much more like this is the situation that you are in. So not only in the academic part, but also in since we are associated sporting, all the whole economy is also going through a lot of changes, especially even the sporting side as well as the businesses. So many trigger points. It's not like just students, but even others are going through this. So it adds to the whole pressure even more. Yeah.
And the other thing is, it's also completely normal to go through these things. There's nothing wrong about going through. There's nothing weird or absurd about going through these feelings of, fear or uncertainty. There's nothing wrong about it. It's completely normal. Just that it is happening to us, and for us to cross the stage, we need to be coming out of it quickly. So that's the reason we're here putting out all the newspaper articles.
Right. Yes. So you rightly said, like, the acceptance, as we are always maintaining, acceptance is the key. But then firstly, you need to be aware from where this is coming, where the stress is coming from. And like Kirtana mentioned, it's a normal reaction. The humans, we are full of emotions. We will react in certain ways. But the key, as we noted in the first slide itself, is to move out of it. You have to go ahead, accept the situation and go ahead. So in order to do that, accept the emotions first. You are undergoing some stress, some fear, some anxiety, and then taking it further, you will come out of it easier. So hence, I guess we'll move on to the next slide, just to give, this is what is exactly happening. You're planned one direction, but if someone cuts through your whole line, it's a disruption, right? You are getting disrupted in your line of thought or your line of goals, or like what you plan, say for next 4 years, I'm going to do this course and this and that. But then this one whole bam, and everything is, disrupted. So that's what is happening in the world. So again, you're not alone. It's not only you are going through it, everyone's going through it. So that's a second point of acceptance, that everyone's going through it.
And there's also, added to what Vardhani said, there's also a sense of perceived control. So perceived control is nothing but how much we think we are in control of the situation. And at the moment, because of the pandemic, most of us have lost a sense of perceived control, right? So thereby, everything seems like a disruption. So even in this picture, there's kind of a disruption because things are not going as planned, which is the sense of control over here, right? So that's the issue at the moment. That's what all of us are facing, wherein we feel we are not in control of the situation. Well, we're going to help you out, understanding what you can actually control.
Right. So before we go on, we'll just understand, like, as I said, we experience different emotions, we experience different feelings at this moment. So what we have done here is we have drawn a chart of normal to like where you really need to be alarmed. And as like psychologists, we focus on 3 different areas. One is your psychological symptoms, which you yourself will know internally because it all happens in your head. Then you'll have physiological, which is more of physical or things that show up on your body. And that's the second level of symptoms. And third is the behavior, what others can also see. So if you're seeing here, you go from yellow to like dark red. The dark red is the danger zone. All right. So if you see I'll just give you examples. Like what if thinking is, what we call as psychologists is what if thinking. That means you'll be thinking, okay, what if I don't get my visa on time? What if I really, this year just slips off and I waste a year? What if I don't get employed in the next 6 months? What's going to happen? These are thoughts that are like engulfing your mind. And it's a common thing. So you don't have to be afraid that, you're going through these things and it's relating or it's resulting into something much more like maybe physiological, like you're feeling low on energy, you're lethargic, you're not feeling okay, to go and say probably wake up on time. It's all normal. So again, like, if you see the behavioral symptoms, it's the same thing. Like you don't wake up on time, you probably eat a lot or you don't eat much. These are common symptoms of you going through a minor bit of like fear or anxiety due to the situation. But you need to be alarmed when you are experiencing the lower symptoms here. That's when you approach a professional psychologist, and to put it in clear words, I guess a clinical psychologist would help you out here. Kirtan, you want to add something here?
Yeah, I mean, when it becomes very repetitive, when you get these things very, very, very frequently, and when you're constantly preoccupied with such thoughts is when you really need to get alarmed, because that preoccupation of thoughts is going to lead you into, the bit where the orange and the red bit. I'm not going to describe it a little more, but I think it will lead up to that. So that's when you really need to take charge, and you might need to seek help, like Vardhani told us.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, just look at it. You will know where you are placed. And if you really feel like, the other part, like as I said, the behavioral symptoms, you will know much more than the psychological ones. if you really feel you're experiencing the orange and the red zone, I think it's the right time to seek. So this also goes for parents. If you're observing certain such behaviors in your children, then it's a good time to seek help of a clinical psychologist at this point. Right. So this was one thing what we wanted to make you aware of. And the second thing, as we were just talking about, like one is emotional awareness, and secondly is like what is in your control. Like, you know, what is exactly in your control is what we are going to talk or like, you know, discuss today, because that is something what is much more relevant in today's situation. So should we just move on to the next slide, Kirtana?
Yes.
All right.
So I think it's easier for us to understand both behavioral and physiological changes, but what most of us cannot be too aware of or very quickly is the thought patterns that we have. So today I'm just going to be going through a few thought patterns which are very common at this particular stage that we're going through. If most of you have paper and pen, it'll be good for you to note it down so that it'll be easier for you to relate to it. So distortions, I've written distortions over here. Distortions are nothing but thought patterns that make you feel a negative situation is a reality. It will make you believe that it's a reality, right? So it's more like wearing a pair of broken spectacles and feeling that the entire world is broken. That's how cognitive distortions can be described in an easier manner. So the first cognitive distortion that you want to be aware of is overgeneralization. Overgeneralization is nothing but, coming to a conclusion about a certain thing with just one incident as an evidence. For example, let's say you didn't get visa, or you did get a visa and you did struggle for a long time before actually getting a visa. You might think that even now, you're going to be struggling for you to get visa. So literally you're just overgeneralizing with one situation. Or maybe there's a news article on how, there's just one news article on how, the visa is not being approved and things like that. And you overgeneralize thinking, okay, this is going to be my situation as well. So that is overgeneralization. Wherein this is where you also could go through the what if thinking, right? What if this happens to me? Because you end up thinking that this situation or this piece of evidence is your truth as well, which is not, right? So that is overgeneralization. So you might want to, kind of introspect and understand if you are going through a certain case of overgeneralization. So we also have a certain activity at the end for you to, kind of monitor this. So we'll explain that to you a little later. And then the second one is control fallacy. Now, I think in the previous slide I described about, perceived control, the loss of perceived control, the, how much control we have or we feel we have over the situation, right? So control fallacy is when we feel we don't have control over the situation at all. We feel like a victim of a certain situation and we feel very helpless. And I know a lot of us are going through this, especially during this situation, because we do feel like victims of, governments not issuing visa, or, the entire virus situation, or flights being cancelled. We all feel like a victim. We don't know what to do. So that is control fallacy, wherein we feel everything is not in our control. Everything is thrown at us and we're just victims, or we're just helpless, right? Black and white thinking is nothing but thinking in terms of extremities. We don't think in middle ground basis at all. This could be similar to overgeneralization. I won't say it's the same, but over here we feel, the situation is going to be same for everything, either black or white. So you might feel you're really good at something, or you might feel you're very bad at something. There's no gray area wherein you feel you can improve, right? And this can creep into your feeling in terms of the current situation as well. So that's about black and white thinking. And of course, mental filtering. Mental filtering is nothing but, going through situations and thinking that only the negatives, or, being aware of only the negatives that happen in that situation and magnifying it, while leaving out all the positives that actually happened in that situation. So basically, even during the COVID-19 phase, there could be a lot of positives that actually have happened, right? Like I think Divya was telling us, there could be a lot of positives that have happened, but we choose to ignore that, magnify the negatives that have happened. So that is mental filtering. And again, like I said, these distortions are normal. All of us go through it on a day-to-day basis. But we got to be aware of such things because we end up making decisions in such manner. And since career and education is such an important choice, we don't want these distortions to, kind of influence these decisions that we make. So it's very important for us to be aware of these distortions. Yes.
Yeah.
Would you like to add anything, Vardhani, to this?
No, I think you explained everything very well. I just wanted to share one thing. It's like, as Kitna said about the negative parts, yeah, definitely even in general, if you talk, it's like, the brain is always attracted to negative thoughts. Okay. We will, as she said, like, we will probably, if we see a crate of mangoes, we will always notice that bad mango out there, and we'll not notice, what the good mangoes look like. Then we will, feel that, okay, we've been cheated right here. Like, that's how we look at situations. Because it's important even in this situation to accept, as we said, for acceptance to happen, you need to accept that, you are having these cognitive distortions. And like Keetana said, we have an activity here, like a poll. So 2 questions, quick ones. Firstly, whether we are actually experiencing these distortions. If yes, then which is the most common ones that you are experiencing?
Yeah, I think. I'll give you about half a minute to respond. Okay, last few seconds. Anyone who hasn't responded, please do so. And here we go. I'm going to show you the results now. There you go.
Okay. Overgeneralization it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Overgeneralization and mental filtering.
And
I think
mental
it's both.
filtering.
Yes.
Yeah. True.
I think yes, it's very common, and
Yeah.
we'll help you out. We'll give you a certain activity so that you can work on this. So I think that's good.
Yes, cool. So, I mean, taking this further, it's just like about the first step. Now that we know, or like, now that we are aware about, say, certain thoughts, like, or how to process these thoughts, for example, the next step is what now? Like, like all these things are happening, but then what now? What is the first step to, say, probably cope with this situation? Right. So we go ahead and say that, okay, controlling the controllables is the key word here. You need to control what is in your control. All right. And because we have like a wide array of things happening in the current situation all around us, people talking about it, news channels reporting this, that, as we said in the beginning, newspaper articles, you read in and out social medias, friends talking. So we have 2 circles drawn here, all right? The first one, the red color, the pink and the red one, we'll talk about is the circle of concern. That means everyone has certain concerns, like, okay, about it. As I said, the news, COVID-19, what's going to happen? How is it going to happen? All these are concerns that, you are expressing. Or like for students, it would be now that the results are out, the CBSE, but then, when are the results? What's going to happen after this? What will be the exam results of the entrance exam and so on. Or what my parents are thinking, what my cousins are thinking, peers are thinking, all those things also. So these are concerns, all right? Or what the uni is going to, what are the new rules that are going to happen in the university that I've chosen to go? Would there be another wave? All those things, okay? And then there is the small circle inside, it's kind of your control. All right, what you can control. All right, so I've kind of highlighted that in the green circle outside as well. So what do you read? What do you do with the given time? As Divya ma'am said, like, you need to, people still have, taken this time in a much more positive way and started probably working on the physical fitness, or like, doing some courses online and so on. So that's in your control. Okay, that's something what you yourself can do and make the most of the situation. All right. So hence, what do you focus on here is very, very crucial. Is it the circle of concern only, or is the circle of control? So that's what you have to contemplate right now, where you are standing and what you're doing with this situation in this given time. Even if you can't travel abroad right now, what are you doing in that given time, which will enhance your career in the future? Okay, so that could be one way of looking at this situation. So hence, if you see the line down, it's like, are you proactive in the situation, wherein you really say, okay, I have these 2 months or maybe more, I could probably do a online course and up my education, or like push myself up in whatever I'm going to do, say by traveling abroad to a university, or what I'm going to do next, or probably take a coding course online, or like if you're getting into engineering and so on. So that's how you're proactive. All right. So hence, proactive people will have a small circle of concern and a large circle of control, because they will know that, okay, these are the things that I can control, and the focus is more on that. All right. So because that's where they spend their energies on. Whereas people who are reactive will have a lot of, you'll be cribbing that, you're in this situation. What should I do? This, that. So hence, the circle of concern is huge, and the circle of control is small, which is the pink side that I've highlighted here. So are you the green side or are you the pink side is what you need to decide. And ideally, you should be more on the greener side, which is, that's how it is. The green is always, good to go signal kind of. Yeah. Right.
There's also one thing I would like to add. See, we understand that whatever is in the circle of concern can highly impact you and influence you in both a positive and a negative manner. But like Vardhani rightly said, when we become very reactive to these things, we just feel like a victim of the entire situation. So it's always better to understand and look at the circle of control and see what you are capable of doing at that point, or what you can do at that point. Because I know at this situation it can be very tough to neglect things like, okay, what will happen? What will my parents think? But on a serious note, actually, we can't really do anything about it. But on the other hand, if you can see what you can control, that's probably going to even influence your circle of concern, right? So it's a good way to think, look at the green box and see how proactive you can be in this situation. In fact, at the end of it, you might feel like you're in control of the situation, and you might feel very happy about the situation, because that's how much you can, you might be feeling very positive out of the entire situation. So that's the thing.
Yeah. That kind of gets us to this circle, like, things what matter, that's like the concern circle, and what you can control. And then there's that Venn diagram which kind of merges, where you should focus on things like, these are the things only what you need to really focus on. Okay, so I guess that's how it ultimately merges here, and it leads us to an activity that you all can do here. Keertan, I want to talk about the activity.
Yeah. So if all of you can write down a list of things that actually matter to you right now. Just take a minute or so to just write down in your piece of paper. You don't have to put it on the chat box. You can just write it down for yourself, things that matter to you right now. Right? I'll just give you a minute or so for you to write it. Few seconds so that you can just write it down. And then you can put down a list of things that you can control or you are in control of in this particular situation. So just put down that list. And now you can see what actually overlaps in both your lists. So what actually comes common in both the lists is what you really need to focus on right now, because there are a lot of things that you can control which really doesn't matter right now, and there might be a lot of things that matter but which you can't control, right? And both are not really important at the moment. So what you really need to focus on right now is the things that you can control and the things that actually matter to you at this moment, right? So if you can come up with that list of what you can focus on, which is the thing which is common in both the lists, the things that matter and things that you can control right now, it would be great. So that's the one you really need to focus on.
Yeah. And just to give like an example, like things that matter could be like, getting the visa on time and like, trying to head to say probably Canada or wherever you want to go, or it could be like starting the course on time. Those are the things that definitely matter. But things that you can control is like, in this given time, what you can do is probably, check up on someone who is actually, an expert in the visa side, or, something like that. That's in your control. You can actually write to them, write to the embassy, or like what's happening and so on. And that's what you need to focus on, because things that really, it's definitely the things that matter. But then if you start fretting about it by like, just panicking, that's not going to help, because that's not going to actually, result in something more productive. So hence, what you can control and what matters, whatever merges there, whatever comes in the common factors, that's something what you need to focus on. Okay, that brings us to the end of our session here. We would like to just, help you out with something that you can do it at home. It's like what you have learned today about things that are in your control, and, is the situation in your control, and so on. So hence, it's important to even note down in your diary daily that, in order to become much more aware of yourself in this situation, in order to develop that mental awareness that we always talk about, it's good to have like a diary written every day. So I've just given you an example, and we're going to share a link with you, which will give you a PDF version of this diary. If I'm not wrong, that's how it's going to happen. And this is an example, like, if there's a situation that you went through today, which, say, for example, my cousin asked me, what are my plans for my master's degree if my visa doesn't come through this year? Okay. So now that's a panicky thought. It's like, it's a situation where, you really don't know what is going to happen. So the thoughts that come to your mind is like, only I had to go through this, or for example, my cousin will think I'm a failure, like, I can't do what I really plan to do, and so on, because he's done so well, and so on. It's a common thought which will come to our mind. It's a part of, like, say, black and white thinking, because you really are there, like, wherein you really feel like you're a failure, but you're really not. It's not like that. So hence, you need to be aware that, these thoughts are coming to your mind. So what are the feelings at that point? You're frustrated, you're feeling pathetic about the situation. Again, was the situation in your control? No. Cousin asking you definitely is not in my control. What the cousin asks me? No. And what is in my control right now is probably to, check on the visa thing, or like, do some short courses to up your, again, knowledge in your skill space, and so on. So that is in your control, not what your cousin is thinking, not what he or she is going to ask you, or what he or she is going to tell the aunts and aunties. That's not in your control at all. So hence you need to know this. You need to tell your mind that this is it. So hence diary writing is always a good way to go about it. Keertana?
Yeah, and we've just, like Vardhani said, there's a link which has this PDF. What you can also do is, like Vardhani rightly pointed out, the negative thoughts, right, could be a reflection of your cognitive distortion. So if you could just understand that you have these thoughts, it will be great. So that's how much it is. You don't have to be alarmed about such things. It's very normal, and it's okay. It's fine that these thoughts come and go. It's fine.
Yeah.
And in case you don't have space in the PDF, then you can write it down by yourself, maybe in your diary, and that's completely fine.
Yeah, the activity will actually help you again accept the situation, become much more proactive than reactive. And as you know, we just to give you like an idea, mental training is not about just understanding these things. It's about putting it into action every day. So diary writing is definitely one tool which helps you assess yourself. So that's why we thought of doing this. Instead of just a webinar, we would help you to process it through the week before you have another session maybe coming up sometime. So that's our whole idea. So now I guess we are open to the questions, Keertana.
Yeah, we're open to questions.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I think that was really, really useful for our young audience. But I think I also, learned quite a bit, as would have maybe some parents and professionals who have been seeing this. So I think you made it very interactive as well. And what we'll be doing is this activity sheet will be shared along, as soon as this webinar gets over. There'll be a pop-up in which we'll ask you for your feedback. Please do share that. And we'll also share a link with the activity sheet that Vardhani and Keertana just were talking to you about. So wonderful. Thank you again. So let's open up to questions. We also have a couple of other speakers and professionals with us that you'll be able to see now. There's Parth is here, Morel, Nanki, and Durga, who are all experts and psychologists in their field. And if you'd like to sort of introduce yourself before I start picking on questions and throwing it to all of you.
Okay, thank you, Anam. I think I'll just jump in here. First of all, sometimes I do wonder how life would be if I was a student at this time. With experts like these, you have information that is so relevant and so applicable to the current scenario. Getting this is it's a great aid, but it really then again depends on how you use it and how you make use of this. For myself, I currently work as a sports psychologist with the Reliance Foundation in Mumbai. So we work with a football academy, and the idea is to impart mental skills to these football players that we hope are transferable to life outside. And of course, now with the COVID situation and stress among students and anxiety among students, we certainly hope that there are transferables there from that area of work. Before I do, open to Nanki and Morel and Durga to introduce themselves. Just a few things I would like to add on in terms of already there's so much that's been covered by our panelists here today. Just in terms of coping skills, I mentioned it on few occasions on how to cope better in this time when there is so much anxiety and stress. One thing we would definitely, as mental health experts, like for the students to focus on avoidant coping skills. I know that's a bit of an oxymoron, but you do want to encourage positive coping in a sense that anxiety itself as an emotion, it doesn't necessarily have to have a negative connotation. And the media, of course, plays a role here. but there is a positive connotation. It is an emotion from an evolutionary perspective that's there to help us understand danger around us, and without it, it would be extremely difficult for us to really understand where danger really lies. Although the problem with itself can be that you sometimes confuse a danger problem with a real problem, and this is where the panelists have given us several skills in terms of distortions and circle of control to manipulate that, or to really deal with that in a better way. But to understand that is the first step, and understanding that allows us to approach our anxiety cycle in a more positive and an open-minded way. I'll give you an example. Something that a stimulus that some of us may find terrifying is not so terrifying for some others. For example, let's say a friend's dog, and a dog that's barking at you, and you come and meet this friend and this dog for the first time, and you're there, and your first response goes, okay, this is a dangerous dog. It's a dog that I need to run away from. There's panic, there's fear. The moment you do that, the moment you escape that situation, your brain rewards you with this positive, there's this balance of chemical balance in your brain that rewards you, goes, aha, that's a great step. If only I can always avoid the dog, I can get this positive feeling again and again. And as I'm saying that, I hope you're making this sort of a parallel in terms of what is this dog at this moment? What is this danger, perceived danger in your life that you really need to be going and conditioning, going towards and conditioning for, as opposed to escaping from that. I think Vardhini mentioned something about what will they think, the thinking around what will the friends think, what will the relatives think. These are issues that can be perceived as real dangers when they're really not, and you really just have to walk through them. As Carl Jung once said, that that which you most want will be found where you least want to look, in the darkest, in the most dangerous place that you perceive, you'll be found there. And so you really have to go there and find it. Yeah, I mean, apart from that, I could just say that be aware of your anxious cycle. If there is some sort of a avoidant coping mechanism that, or avoidant mentality that is coming about, where you are not doing the things that you would normally do. For example, maybe you're avoiding a certain friend, or you're avoiding certain relatives till the results come out, or till the universities show something substantial, or you're avoiding a certain person's email. The best possible thing would be is to really sit down and work on these techniques and these skills that our panelists here have shared with us, and try to assimilate that in your behavior. Sorry, so that said, of course, Nanki, Durga, and Morella here. Guys, please feel free to introduce yourself and add on to the presentation.
Yeah, so I'll start. Hi, my name is Durga. I work along Parth at Reliance Foundation at the Football Academy. And I think adding on to what Parth has just begun the introduction of for our Q&A, I think it's really interesting that we talk about coping skills, but also the process of learning these skills, the way that we want to build awareness on what we're going through, as well as how we want to build these skills. And something that was very interesting that crossed my mind as well is, I think Divya mentioned this as well in the beginning, which is a lot about adaptation. And I think positive adaptation definitely plays a huge role in how we want to perceive it, one. And I think secondly, also the optimism which we have to want to build these skills in such a uncertain time. I think another important factor also is that adjustment is another thing that we can, I think it's a easier word to chew on now, because I think adaptation and reaching high up and being productive, feeling productive is something that we want to aspire to, saying, hey, you know, I'm at home now. How do I make my time more useful? What are the things I want to have control with in my daily routine. But I think adjustment is also kind of word to use in these circumstances, where you are also understanding that, okay, it's probably a lot of readjustment, a lot of new habits or new skills that you may have to sort of slowly get used to. And I think as psychologists, we're also always focusing on, just building awareness, being kind to yourself during that process as well. And with the skills that we're hoping to inculcate as well in the next couple of sessions that we do have, that to just understand what the skills are, apply them, and of course with the PDFs and the information that we're giving across, that we will be able to help you through that process. Yeah, so Nanki or Morel, you can introduce yourselves.
Should I pose some questions to you guys so you can introduce yourselves and ask, just answer them as well? I think that would, serve both purposes as well. So I'm just opening the Q&A. Thank you everyone for sharing your questions with us and sort of being open about this whole process. So someone has said that they're having excessively negative thoughts about their future. Can you share some tips on how to cope with this pandemic and be a bit positive? So would Nanki, would you like to take that up?
Oh, so yeah, I'm Nanki. I'm also a sports and performance psychologist. Answering the question of negative thoughts and how to really cope with the current scenario, I would say acceptance is first, which of course Vardhini and Kirtana spoke in their presentation. Accepting, saying that we all are in this together. It is an uncertain time. We don't know when this will all end and when everything will go back to normal. So acceptance is first. Secondly, I would say, which was a big message throughout the presentation, was controlling the controllables. I won't go much in detail in that, but yeah, pretty much right now, what is in your control sitting at home or wherever you are, I think that's the main thing. Just focusing on the future of worrying when will this end, when can we actually go out, when can I apply for my future admissions. For some of you, the plan must have changed completely, and that can be extremely overwhelming. But at this point, the key is controlling the controllables, because if you try thinking too much in the future, which is not in your control, that only result in more frustration, anger at times as well. Easier said than done, but every single day, if we take a step and think and question ourselves, what are we focusing on today? I think that will help you cope with the current situation and also stay in the present. So I think that's a big coping strategy at this point for everyone.
Great. Thanks, Nanki. Morel, if you'd like to also introduce yourself. Also, we have a good question. Someone is asking, how do they overcome the fear of loneliness? Because mostly everyone's at home and they're not out. They can't really hang out with their friends. So if you have any suggestions.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Morel Disa, and like everyone else here, I'm a sport and exercise psychologist as well. Yeah, so to answer the question, how do you overcome the fear of loneliness? This is an expected feeling right now, because all of us are, locked up in our houses. We have limited contact with people around us, and we're sort of missing that human touch, which is a very important part of our lives. And so in times like this, it's important to take that extra step to stay connected. So if you're a student whose course has been converted to an online course right now, you can't go to your lectures, but you definitely have other classmates who are attending that class with you, although they are in their own homes. Make it a point to connect with them, whether it's to discuss some of your coursework or just to catch up by the end of the day. Schedule that time into your daily routine rather than leaving it to whether or not I feel like doing it. Right? So maybe scheduling some socializing time at the end of the day, or maybe in the middle of the day when you're not doing much work, would help with that. And it's also important to understand that everyone is going through this. Some might not be willing to take the step to get in touch with you or to to tell you how they're feeling, but a lot of us are feeling the same thing because we've all been kept away from that human interaction that we're so used to. And so make it a point to do that a lot more consciously. And I think that will help with, the feeling of loneliness, just getting in touch with people, whether it's your family or your friends or your classmates, or even your professors for that matter. If you have a question, write to them or schedule a call. Whatever is the best way to get in touch with them.
Great. Thanks, Marel. I guess reaching out, it's important to continue doing that, even if it's through, sort of online mediums rather than in person. So Divya, I have a question for you. So clearly online delivery is here to stay. And could you, we have another question from someone saying that they're getting a Zoom overdose because everything is now online. So how can they sort of try and get used to this new form of learning, and what are schools doing to, sort of for their current batches to make this an easier process?
Yeah, first of all, Vardhini and Keertana, very wonderful presentation. I was taking my own notes. And now coming back to Zoom, I think, yes, let's look at it this way. When we were having physical classes, there was overload of physical classes. There are 7 classes per day. So now if it is through Zoom, it is overload of Zoom. But yes, I think the key is only to be adaptable. As I said, there's a concept called experiential learning, do a lot of hands-on activities. It would help cope up with this extra burden. Rather, it is, we cannot treat it like a burden because it is going to stay. So I think the only key is to be adaptable and think of in terms of like, it was exactly the way when we were having physical classes. So the hours are somewhat same.
Right. So it's a small change. We should just view it as a minor change in the form of communication, but otherwise I think you've tried to maintain things as they have been before.
As they've been,
Great. Let's go back to the chat. Someone is saying, what is your advice? This is open to everyone, on feeling unproductive based on, what other people are putting on social media. So, okay, maybe during the pandemic, you're feeling a little more unproductive because you're just at home, you're not going out. But also, I think you guys touched upon social media pressure. So, so anything that, Vardhini, Keertana, if you'd like to add.
Okay, so I guess again, like this is not only during the pandemic, but otherwise as well, because of the amount of social media, coverage that everyone's having nowadays. It's very, very obvious that you see, you try to compare yourself to people or like influencers as they're called. Like people are doing so many things, and you feel you're not doing much. Okay, and even right now you might get that feeling a little more because again, you're not stepping out. There are people who are probably extroverts. They really have a need to meet people, and even at if it's a workplace or if it's students, they need to meet and then they'll study better. That's all personality traits, and you will definitely feel that void right now, that maybe I'm not doing the best I can. And then you see all these people on social media who are posting stuff that make the most of it and blah blah blah, and what is something what we also have been talking about, but then they put it right out there. And then I remember a message that if you don't do something during this lockdown, then you're pretty unproductive, or I don't know, there's some motivational messages that have been sent everywhere, and like that's really I feel it's very subjective. First of all, everyone has different potentials. Everyone has different ways in which they cope with the situation. Okay, so there are some people who would be much more productive sitting at home. There be people who are not feeling productive sitting at home. So hence, first point is better not to compare, because everyone has different ways in, as I said, of coping and ways of living this particular lockdown. I'm sure that, at the end of the day, if you look at the day and you say that, okay, I at least I started exercising today, for example, that's a good way of affirming yourself that, okay, you're done something much more better than what you did yesterday. So that's a good way of telling, yourself, rather than comparing it to someone else on social media, that, you're progressing. So I guess that's one way to cope with this situation.
Great. No, thanks. Thanks a lot. And I
just,
guess it's, yeah, please,
add
Nanki.
one quote to conclude. I came across a really interesting meme which said, "We are in the middle of a pandemic, not a productivity marathon." And that was an eye-opener for me, because I was putting stress on myself that I'm not as productive. And just keeping that in mind, that it's not a normal circumstance. I know people, like Vardhini said, putting on social media, being very productive. So I just remember we are in the middle of a pandemic, not a productivity marathon. I would just like to end on that.
Thanks, Anki. I think that's very important to remember. Divya, so we also have, I think we may have a couple of parents also who've joined students for today's session. Can you share some sort of advice on how parents can actually step in and help students cope during this time?
I think parents, they are going to play, and they have always been played a very crucial role in the life of students. And as we have been discussing, these are different times, a lot of stress, anxiety, and the whole, the daily schedules, they have gone haywire. So I have parents who have come to us and they said that the boys are mostly into PUBG and all that, and not the cycle has become entirely opposite to what it usually is. So I think parents, they need to be more vigilant. They, as very rightly pointed out, if they see a change in the child, there's some problem, they should definitely approach a psychologist. I think the only advice from my side is that they should try and keep a good schedule for their child. I think the rest of the problems they will be able to tackle much better if they're able to do that.
Great. Anyone else would like to add anything to that?
Well, I'll just quickly add something to that. I think, of course, working with football players, about 80 of them, and the parents are so involved in the sport as well. And the one thing we tell them, and I think it's so relevant in today's time as well, is to create a healthy motivational climate. Because at home, especially, parents are really at the core of what motivates the children. Be really open to what cues and what signals they're giving you from their behavior. Don't be overly participatory. I mean, it's great to participate in what they're doing, but too much of it perhaps can deter them to reach out to you. And just really be positive and be open as far as that goes, just to extend your ear there, that yes, we are here, and it's a teamwork. I mean, that's a big transferable from a team sport to family units now, that the family now becomes really the team. And you can no longer play this game individually, sit in your own home in seclusion and try to really work this out. So XYZ reasons that I did it, look at me. I mean, there's this whole ego reward there. But just tying in sort of quickly from what really follows in terms of a session on resilience is that high resilient thinking would invite families to sort of be aware of what do they really have at the moment in terms of the positive assets, in terms of the good things in their relationship, and what is it that they really need to achieve these goals, and do a good inventory. And sort of the skill is to really just mobilize and shift between the two columns prudently and together as a team to get through this.
Great. No, thanks, Parth. I think so. The idea is, I guess, for parents to show their support, but also not overwhelm their children, right? Great, thank you. So another question here on future opportunities. And so Divya, could you give us some insight on what, how students can perhaps prepare for the next few years?
Yeah, I think this question has been coming up. It has always been there, but now I think it is creating a lot of panic amongst the students.
Yes.
I would like to very specifically share it with all the students that they would be in the job market after 4 years, the one who's in 12th. And students who are in 9th, 10th, and 11th, it is still much more time for them to be looking for jobs. And yes, the industries are disrupted, things are changing. And all of a sudden, everybody's talking about AI and data sciences, and everybody's thinking that hospitality is never going to be back on its track, and so is the aviation sector. And so my suggestion is, rather than only thinking of which industry, they should concentrate on some basic skills, like communication skills, quantitative abilities, sciences. If they're able to focus on few skills, and of course everybody has a core competency, they would be in a better situation to figure out where they will get jobs and which industry is going to pick them up. Because I think most of us would agree we are preparing ourselves for the time when none of the jobs are going to, I mean, the kind of jobs we have today are not going to be there. So nobody can really tell a student that, yes, this is the one line you can start preparing from today, and this is how it is going to be in next 5-6 years. So we are looking at a time when the job sector is going to be entirely different. Just concentrate on few skills and don't worry, things are going to pick up. But yes, there'll be a few changes. So that's my work on skills rather than worrying too much about the kind of industry you will end up in.
Right. And I think I guess also be open to more options as
Yes.
you mentioned. Great. Okay. And let's move on to our next question. Someone is saying the situation is not in our control, and we have thoughts coming constantly in our mind, and we think of ourselves as a culprit. How do we deal with these thoughts? I think Kirtana and you guys had also spoken a little bit about the victimization. So do you have any tips for Muskan over here on how to deal with these thoughts? Anyone?
Sorry. Anam, can you just repeat that last bit?
Yeah, so I think we have someone here who is saying that, the negative thoughts and stuff, and they look upon themselves as the culprit and the victim in such situations. Do you have any tips on how to deal with these thoughts? It was sort of covered in the presentation, but do you have some tips for Muskan over here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important to understand that this situation that's where we are in at the moment, overtly it's made out to be something that's not too positive. So there is going to be some sort of a wear and tear in the way in your own system, be it how you perceive yourself, how you perceive your equation with somebody in your family. There is going to be a wear and tear there, because it's accepted that this is a sort of an adversity or a setback in a way.
Right.
However, there are goalposts or there are rules that are in your interest to move or change now more than ever. You are doing that keeping in mind that there is a pressure, there is a demand, no matter how perceived that is, but there is one that will have an exertion, that will have a negative impact on many other things and many other behaviors of your life. But you need to step in there and create a higher order thinking, which questioning in terms like victimization, what does being a victim here really mean? And really breaking it down to, is it about one or two people in the family and my relationship with them and what they say and how I perceive that, what they say, and why is it that I really perceive this way? Is it because, again, that what's the worst that's going to happen if I know there's on the poll as well, there's a lot about fear of losing out a year. So for instance, if there is victimization somewhere there, that I had a plan going here, there's a route here, there's a flow here, and suddenly disrupted, and in my own social strata and my own social dynamics, it means that I fall down the hierarchy. That's a hierarchy you've created for yourself. It's in your own interest to sort of modify the rules of that hierarchy now more than ever. It's okay to have that 1 year drop, because it's not really the year that you are fearing that's going to be lost. It's the opportunities within that year. And as the panelists really said, that looking at it in terms of a circle of control, when it's the opportunities that you dread missing out, you really can go out there and take steps to acquire the skills that will give you a semblance of control and boost your self-esteem, boost your self-worth and morale. And all of a sudden, it's not such a loser thing to do, really. I mean, there's a language that you've got to learn. You've got to go ahead and do it on a side course, and look at the gains that you accrue and compound over, let's say, a 6-week course that you do, basic language course. It's going to definitely have a great impact. So my advice would be simply is challenge these rules, think about it differently, because now more than ever, you need to do it because the demand is such that you have to do it.
Right.
I'd just like to add to that a little bit, building on what Parth just said.
Sure.
In instances, and I think Vardhani has also highlighted this fact, we are more, we identify these negative thoughts and these negative patterns a lot more than we identify the good things that have happened or the good things that we can do. And, you know, it's only normal that these negative thoughts do keep popping up in our mind every now and then. And we might have the tendency, you know, like you rightly put it, to make ourselves the culprit. And in such situations, one is definitely go back to the log that Kirtana and Vardhani have, you know, spoken to us about. You know, where we identify what the situation was, what was the kind of thought that we had. You know, are we saying we're responsible for it, or that all bad things only happen to us? Regardless of whatever the negative thought is, put it down, and after you're done with the table, maybe you could take it a step forward and just ask yourself whether there's any evidence to prove that negative thought, or is it just made up in your mind? Very often, something as simple as this helps us, you know, reduce the negative impact that kind of thought can have. So just a small tip there.
Thanks, Morel. Okay, so we have quite a few questions. Let's just take maybe 2-3 more if you guys are okay with it, and we can wrap up in another 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, so someone is okay. This is interesting, Divya, because you know, we spoke about you know, parents and how they should you know, deal with their children and you know, the expectations. Now we have a student who's asking how do they overcome their parents' expectations. Do you have any tips for that? Because I know this is something you might be doing for a long time, and students might be coming to you asking advice about their careers and what parents expect them to do, and you know, what they want to do. And has that sort of changed right now? And any tips that you may have?
Yeah, I think parents' expectation and if there's a conflict in what the student is thinking, it has implications in terms of a student gets frustrated at times. And but as I said in the beginning, communication is the key. It is very important that there's a communication between a student, parent, and if there's a counselor in the school, because sometimes counselor becomes the medium to help both of them understand and bring them to the same platform. And it hasn't changed. I think, okay, maybe during this pandemic, the situation, parent situation has changed, the businesses are affected and things like that. So that might have added one more dimension to it. But yes, there's always been this factor as far as our society is concerned, a little bit more as compared to perhaps some few other societies. Communication is the key. Perhaps they can talk openly by themselves, or they can take help of an elder in their family, or if there's a counselor in their school. That always helps.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Divya. Okay, one more questions. Let's see. Someone is saying that during the quarantine, they've been feeling like they're going back to being an introvert, and that they're getting too comfortable in this situation, and you know, they're worried that this is going to sort of affect them in the long term, and you know, how they are, you know, their personality is. So does anyone have, you know, some tips for that?
Well, I'll just quickly jump
Yeah.
in briefly, get there. I think
Please.
the rest can cover that better. As far as introversion goes, in itself, it's not really the concern, because uh, it's what you're really thinking about yourself at the moment, about being secluded, and what are these feelings of low self-worth or low confidence. Uh, as I said earlier about having an avoidant coping mechanism, where it's easier to get the rewards that your brain gives you after you execute that behavior, which allows you to avoid this situation of social interaction. Uh, you really need to find a way to interrupt that cycle. So you need to
Right.
know where you can interrupt that. One, as I already explained, is to experience that emotion of what it feels like. But it's easier said than done. So with a dog as well, I mean, it's a barking dog, and you really don't want to go close to it. That's the last place you want to go. You want to run the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Even if it is interacting with your peers, not knowing really what you'll add, not knowing whether you know enough about your own options or news out there. It's easier to avoid that and go, yeah, I'm okay in my own setting. I'm okay with my own gadgets and in my own world. That's fine. But uh, the second bit is to really think different about the stimulus itself. And change the rules around that, really. Like, uh, what does this really mean, this stimulus? What does it mean to put myself out there and come across as someone who's not well informed, or who's not well equipped to, or who's not as smart as I think I am, and let down there? What does it really mean there? Like, uh, to work around those rules is something perhaps, of course, a clinical psychologist is better equipped to, or a counselor is better equipped to guide you through. But that's really the essence here in terms of when we say coping skills, being avoidant. Really be aware of your cycle there and make incremental changes. So even with this stimulus that really causes a negative emotion in you, try to have a sort of a hierarchy that sort of exposes you to it uh, step by step. So you don't want to just jump into that one situation that really that you're really avoiding. You want to sort of build there slowly. You want to get there incrementally. So what can be the first step that gets you closer to that thing that you dread at the moment? Again, self-awareness will get you there. Is it interacting on your social, or on your through your cell phone with an old friend, or with an old teacher that you have been avoiding? But that's a small step, and really being in that experience, and really being aware of what that makes you feel like, being in control of your anxiety in that moment, and really you have the control there, that you have the plug to it. Whenever you want, you can back out of it. But really, it's knowing that yes, it's not so bad. Getting through that is being in tune with yourself will get you there. So I would say, in a nutshell, first of all, be aware of the interaction that you're avoiding, because in itself, it's not bad to be an introvert, especially at this time. But if it is social support at all, that is something that you're not reaching out enough, that social interaction, see for yourself where within that can that hierarchy be made, or that call it the exposure hierarchy be made, where step by step I get to that thing that I really dread. And I'm, spoiler alert, I mean, you will get through these steps, you will get through this ladder, and eventually there is victory in that. Like I said, the thing that you want most will be found where you least want to look. So you will find gains incrementally if you move towards there. Reach out in your own interest, because social support is at the core of high resiliency, and high resiliency is in your interest at the moment. Low resilient behaviors are not. If you have done an inventory of what you have and what you need, and one of the things that you really do need right now is social support, and you are coming in your own way to achieve that social support, then perhaps that's where you really do start with yourself, and really acclimatize to that, and get that social support that you do need. And it's only a win-win from there.
Thanks, Parth. I mean, I'm sorry. I know that was very, very relevant. We do have one last question, if you guys don't mind. Someone has sent it 3 times, Rifat, and I'll just read it out to you. I think a lot of what you've said may also already apply, but if you could also respond to them, it would be great. They're saying if a student is suffering from any kind of mental illness, which has led him or her to feel alone during this time, and how can she or he manage this bad and strong feeling of loneliness? Morel or Parth, or Divya, you might also have some insight.
I would very in a very short, I would suggest that he or she should definitely get in touch with a psychologist. Go to a specialist. She should not shy away from approaching someone for help, and do not delay. Do not delay at any cost. Yeah, that's it.
I think I would second that, and especially because a mental health professional or a psychologist would be able to help such a student specifically with respect to what she or he is going through, then rather than any general tips which we have already shared time and again during this Q&A session. So yeah, I would second that.
Great. Parth, anything to add?
Well, just quickly that it's in your interest to not label, to use these labels very carefully, because like Divya and Morel already said, expert advice and expert diagnosis would allow you, would place you better in that perspective. And avoidant, spending time with yourself, again, they're not illnesses in their own right. And if you are going through this behavioral pattern where you are spending a lot of time with yourself as opposed to your friends or on your social, really, I mean, it's a bit, you really have to be very careful with labeling that as an illness, really, because like the theme of this presentation itself is that sort of negative feeling and this anxiety, it's not one person's unique experience. It's been experienced globally. It's this idea of really feeling where my perceived control was and feeling lessened in a way. It's being shared by most of the people around you. So a lot of things could be just solved by seeing an expert there, and that of course brings a change in the way you perceive yourself.
Great, thank you. So everyone who is still with us and who have asked all these questions, I hope your needs have been met. And if there is a follow-up form that will come once this webinar gets over, if something was not answered, please feel free to share that. We'll definitely be doing some more wellness webinars in the weeks to come. So stay tuned. We realize how important this is for all of you. And we'd like to continue providing that sort of support. And thank you all so much. I think this has been such a great and insightful session. There's been an amazing, I mean, the spectrum of advice that you guys have provided has really been great. And we will be sharing this. So we are live streaming on Facebook right now. So this is available on our Maple Assist Facebook handle. And we will also be sharing a YouTube link, which will be on our Maple Assist channel as well. So anyone could not catch the whole session or just miss bits of it, you would be able to catch it later and also share with others you think that would. So that's it for today. Thank you so much again to our panelists. Thank you for staying out to the very end, and it's been really great. I hope we can all come back together again at some point and do what we did. You can also get in touch. I think we've, some of our panelists are available on, they have their social media handles if you want to get in touch with them. And of course, do share your feedback with us. We'd like to get better and be able to serve you better. So thanks again. thanks to all of you, and stay safe, and until next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.